So as Jay said, welcome to our February meeting and convention. This is where we will have our elections for officers for next year. So just a couple of meeting etiquette notes. We use a stack. So if you want to speak during a discussion, just so everyone's not talking over each other, either type stack in the chat or say your name stack. So I would say Kelly stack aloud. And during the rest of the meeting, please keep your microphone muted so that we don't have too much background noises. And type questions in the chat. If you have a question and you don't have access to the chat, you can say stack. And if a presenter is not able to stay on for the open forum or answer your question in the chat, then you can contact them via email, and we will provide email addresses for everyone who's speaking. So for now, introduce yourself in the chat. Include your name, pronouns, what area, what neighborhood you're in, and whether you're a registered green. That's for our voting records, so that we know whose votes to count during any kind of thing we vote on, which is the elections, but also proposals or motions that are made. Okay, sorry. So we will first go over the January minutes. We'll approve them. We'll talk about the events coming up. We'll have officer announcements and committee updates. Then we will hold a vote on endorsing Connor for council. Connor's running for council. Big announcement in case you haven't heard already. And then we'll have our membership convention, which will be approving the bylaws amendments, the budget guidelines, the platform and candidate endorsement process, and then finally our elected officers and delegates. And then we'll wrap up and have an open forum to discuss whatever everyone wants to talk about. So we have a link to the January 2021 minutes. I think Billy will post that link in the chat because it's linked in the presentation, but you obviously can't get to it from here. But if anyone wants to look those over really quick, should we just do the motion to approve right now? Jay or anyone?
So moved.
All right, Jay moved to approve the January minutes. Do we have a second?
Second. Motion.
All right, I heard Dominic second. I heard another one, but I don't know who it was because the little box didn't light up on my Zoom. So are there any objections? The way we do motions is we approve by consensus. So we ask for any objections, any concerns, any blocking concerns, and as long as there are no blocking concerns, it passes by consensus. So does anyone have any objections? Going once, going twice, a little pause for Zoom unmuting purposes. And we will approve by consensus. Okay, January minutes are approved. Next slide, please. Okay, so for events, we've got our Green Wave meeting coming up on Thursday. That's this Thursday, the 4th at 8 p.m. That's for new candidates. We're having a finance training. On Saturday at 6 p.m., there's a campaign registration party. I'm sure Jay will mention more of that later, or someone will. On the 13th, which is the next Saturday at 11:30 a.m., we have our Stop Banking the Bomb protest in Shadyside, and then 2 weeks after that in Wilkinsburg. Our next assembly is going to be on March 2nd. We always have it the first Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. on Zoom. Chair announcements, Jay.
All right, this is me. We've had a busy month. All of our months are busy. But just to start us off, the executive committee signed a couple letters in this past month. because they're kind of like faster turnarounds, and we couldn't wait until the next General Assembly meeting. So one was an open letter to Mayor Peduto that's kind of put together by Pittsburgh United, kind of calling him out for comparing Black Lives Matters to far-right extremists. And then the other one was a letter from the National Lawyers Guild to drop charges against Pittsburgh Black Lives Matters protesters. In addition to that, we had a bunch of events. We had the the Stop Banging the Bomb March and Rally, which was very cold, but good energy. And I was able to speak, and Alexis played some songs, and Paul was kind of, he spoke as well. And we kind of marched back and forth a little bit, and then we dispersed. Other than that, there's been like some scattered petitioning here and there to gather signatures for the solitary confinement ban, and also the Breonna's Law, the no-knock warrant ban in the city of Pittsburgh. And there is also there's a hearing about the Clerton Coke Works that a bunch of Green Party members attended. It didn't really start out as a Green Party event, but because there were so many Green Party people, we were like, let's just mention that we're with the Green Party. So there were actually like 10 plus people at that hearing who were speaking on behalf of the Green Party or as Green Party members. Other than that, I just wanted to point out that there's this teacher strike, the Keystone Oaks School District, that Stephen Martinez mentioned in the South Hills Slack. It's just kind of like something to be aware of, and that's kind of the sort of thing that we should probably plug in and support in any way that we can. I'm not sure if we can get something together in time for this one that's happening this week, but in general, we should be prepared to support that sort of worker action. Okay, that's all. That's all for chair reports.
Do you guys just see a blank slide?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just like my Zoom freaking out.
Yeah, sorry about this, Kelly. For some reason, when I run the presentation, if I don't like wiggle the mouse every 5 seconds, it like goes to sleep and I have to restart the presentation. I cannot figure out why it does this because it never does this on any other occasion. So sorry, everyone, I'll fix it real fast.
No worries.
It's a special occasion. I think next is the treasurer's report, though.
Yeah, next would be the treasurer's report, which I didn't get a chance to write up, but I just submitted the finance report for 2020 today, right on the deadline, the extended deadline. So we've got that going, and we got our budget for the next year sketched out. And that'll be part of our convention. So I don't really need to go over it right now. We can go over it during the convention. That's really all I have. All right, so committees. The candidate endorsement process begins now. So the Green Wave Committee, Garrett, you want to go?
Yeah. Wait, is my video on? Okay, I think it is. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so our 2021 process is beginning now. It's a municipal election year, so there's all kinds of offices at local levels that are interesting and relatively easy to run for. And so this is a great year if you've thought about it in the past. If you thought about running in the past and are never sure when to get started, this is probably a good year to at least look into it. So, let me know if you're interested in that, and I can help you walk through the process. If you already know for sure that you're running, we can give you a candidate endorsement packet and help you get started with your campaign committee and everything that you need to run. And that includes, Kelly had mentioned the events on the calendar earlier that we showed. This Thursday is a specific training for setting up a campaign committee and doing financial reporting that's required by the county and the state. So you just a couple of times a year, basically, you file a finance report. That's kind of a disclosure, just who donated to your campaign and what did you spend the money on. It's not a big deal, so we go through the forms and show you how to do it. So if you're interested in either being a candidate or a treasurer for a candidate, or helping with that kind of thing, please come to that training. There's an RSVP link on the state party website, and I'm sure we'll drop it in the Zoom chat here in a minute. The part 2 of that is that on Saturday, we'll have a short follow-up event where people who did the training or are interested in creating their campaign committees will fill out the forms together, so that if there's any questions or anything like that, we can answer them real time, and then we're all in a good position. So yeah, think about those events on Thursday and Saturday. They should be recorded though, so if you miss these, it's okay. We'll have follow-up trainings. We'll be able to give you the video and stuff like that. Yeah, so getting excited about it. So our first candidate announced, which is Connor, but hopefully he's not going to be the only one in the next couple of months. So we'll look forward to that. Over, unless anyone has any questions.
Awesome. Jay was on Stack.
Yeah, I realized I forgot to mention this, but so one of the things that happened this past month is I've been talking to potential candidates or candidates who have some interest in maybe running. So that's kind of currently ongoing, but also talking to people who would be on campaign teams. Honestly, our campaign teams are more important than our candidates. Having a candidate without a campaign team is like, it's not fun for anybody. So it's really important that we back up all our candidates with campaign teams. And if we have a campaign team, there are a lot of people who support the things we believe in. It's just like important that we have the proper team behind our people. But yeah, if you know anyone who might be interested in being a candidate, you can let me or Garrett know. And we especially need people to do campaign roles, and like everybody that works on a campaign has not done anything like this before. We're all just regular people. So I think it can seem kind of scary, but it's not, it can be not too far removed from like things that we do in our day-to-day life. We have trainings for people. So yeah, we can work with you to figure it out. Just let us know if you're interested in helping support some of our candidates. Over.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? All right, Garrett, we can go to the next slide, please. All right, anti-war working group, David, and excuse me, I will be right back.
Is David on? No, okay, I'm gonna take over. Yeah, basically we just have a Stop Banking the Bomb. That's like our main anti-war activity. So we had the march, that's what this picture is from. And we had a picket this past Saturday, and we're gonna have a picket, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday in Shadyside. And then one in Wilkinsburg. So going through the East End next. That's about it. Oh, we also had our film screening on Friday, January 22nd, that we co-sponsored with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. So that actually went really well. That was really cool. Anti-war people from across the country, and yeah, it was just good. It was good to have the march and then the film screening. The film was really good too. Okay, over.
This is Elizabeth. I have a question about the PNC Bank. Stop Banking the Bomb.
Go for it.
Is there any kind of process where we petition or write to PNC or something so that they're aware we're out there?
Yeah, so we've been having regular meetings with PNC, like PNC executives. And by we, I mean the Stop Banking the Bomb Coalition, not me. So there's been dialogue back and forth. There's also a petition that I'll share in the chat that we have been collecting signatures for. There's also like letters to the editors, letter writing campaign, various things like that. So there's like a whole separate meetings that happen of our coalition. And if anyone wants to attend those meetings on behalf of the Green Party of Allegheny County, that would be great. David Hughes is always in attendance, but it's helpful to have more more Green Party members involved in that planning. So you can just let me know if you're interested in that.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, time for our convention. So the proposals that we're voting at are available at the website. Could someone paste that in the chat, please? But basically, we are voting to endorse Connor for council. We are electing our officers, and we're approving some bylaws amendments, budget guideline, and platform. So this is going to be our guiding principles for the year to come. All right, so now we'll hear a statement from Connor, just really quick for a couple minutes, and then we'll have 5 minutes of question and answer time for anyone who wants to ask Connor questions. So take it away.
I had no idea that I was supposed to have a statement. So I'll riff, I guess.
Sorry, that's my fault, Connor. I thought I had told you about it.
Garrett, you might have. I probably forgot. Anyway, yeah, I'm Connor, for anybody who I might not have met yet. I guess in short, I'm running because I see a real lack of actual progressive leadership in the city of Pittsburgh. And I think that we desperately need that right now, right? I mean, we're in the doldrums of a pandemic, economic crisis, social upheaval, and we need new voices, new ideas, people who understand what's going on for regular people, and not just folks who are part of a machine, know a certain way of doing things, and accepting certain boundaries of what is possible. And I want to break through those and really make Pittsburgh more progressive and better for everyone. But especially in District 4, where historically there's sort of a feeling of being left out, of not really being the city of Pittsburgh and just being its own sort of entity. And the South Hills is an awesome, diverse place, and I think it's a side of Pittsburgh that is a little bit more of a truer picture of Pittsburgh than maybe some in power like to imagine whenever they talk about Pittsburgh. So yeah, please take a look at my questionnaire. I saw a couple of questions pop up in the chat. Grill me. Let's answer some questions. Is that a good statement? I don't know.
Yeah, that was great. The only question I saw in the chat was whether you were running against Coghill, and there were several different but same answers. Yes, so Coghill, Anthony Coghill, is that his name?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Is the incumbent in that district, and whoever wins the Democratic primary there's a couple of contenders in the primary, but whoever wins that primary is going to be running against Connor. And
I put another question in.
could you be more specific about changes you'd make or try to make?
Yeah, so right off the bat is with budgeting, right? I mean, everybody, at least progressives in the city, are kind of obsessed with the city's budget for the last several months, and cuts specifically to DPW, which people in my district care about a lot. If you've been watching the news, it's sort of turned into a beat of snow removal in District 4. So we can't afford those cuts if we want our city to be functional, right? That's not the place that we need to make cuts right now. EMS in the middle of a pandemic, also not the place to be making cuts. DOMI, a city office that's near and dear to my heart as a mobility advocate, also not the place to make cuts, especially whenever every few weeks or a few months, it seems like someone's getting hit by a car in our district. So those I would make immediately, you know, I would in the next budget cycle reverse those, and pick places in the budget where we maybe don't need certain things, such as, anybody want to guess? The police, right? I mean, we need to reimagine policing, but actually have the police look different, right? You know, certainly no less than lethal weapons.
Yeah, the only other question that has popped up was where would you want cuts to be made, if any? So
Yeah, so I
nailed
think
that
that,
one on the head.
yeah, I mean, the police is where that stuff needs to happen. You know, if we have to look at our budget critically and make hard decisions, and in the middle of this big national conversation and local conversation too, this, you know, this is happening everywhere. Pittsburgh can lead and figure out that model of, you know, how does the city function without a bloated police force? It seems like a silly question, but people assume that it just can't happen because it hasn't been done before, and you just need a voice to say that it's possible, it can be done, and, you know, I want to do that.
I had a question about Domi in there.
Was that about the Mon connector?
Yes, please comment, because many of us do not like Domi.
Right. So the Mon connector is obviously a huge mistake. I'm not a fan of that project either. Is Domi on the wrong side of that? Yeah. But are they good for the city, for other things, for protecting pedestrians, you know, connecting bike infrastructure? It's kind of early to tell, but certainly, you know, putting time and energy and resources towards a project like the Mon Oakland connector is ridiculous, especially whenever people who actually live in the neighborhood, you know, had their own plan for what to do with that sort of money, and nobody listened to it. Was there another?
Matt asked in the chat, would you fight for more restrictions on city term limits?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm not aware of actually any term limits. I don't actually know that they exist. Certainly something I would be open to. I think generally they're a good idea. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? You don't have to send them through the chat. You can just speak up now.
Hey, Connor, I did have a question. Unfortunately, I'm unable to vote for you because I live in the North Hills area, but you seem like a great guy with a lot of good ideas. Should you get elected, do you see people on the current council that you might be able to work with, and how do you have a plan for trying to bring the others on board with your ideas?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, take the Mon Oakland connector, for example. Some hearts recently changed in council on that, right? So Corey O'Connor, you know, if he's taken the time to actually think about transportation and the issues presented by that project in particular, I think that would signal somebody that we could potentially work with. I don't know. I mean, I think really each council member, I think, has their own sort of niches and things that they're interested in, and I think that we can engage all of them, really. You know, I even sorry, I'm reading questions instead of answering yours, Chuck. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think they're all able to work together on different things. You know, it's all about the approach and what it is that we're trying to get done. I'm certainly willing to work with anybody, at least.
All good questions. Yeah. We'll give you a break, Connor. That was great.
May I ask just one really kind of quick one?
Yeah, sure.
I was wondering, so we all must know that Pittsburgh has a long history of pretty severe air pollution. And even today, there are still a lot of issues with our air quality here in the city that in some areas of the country they don't necessarily deal with. Like we still have some companies kind of grandfathered in, not being regulated the same as new companies. Do you think there's anything city council might be willing to do or able to do in the near future to help us bring our air quality up to even better standards? Because we still have some days where air quality is pretty bad, especially for asthmatics and especially during a pandemic that attacks the lungs.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So it gets tricky whenever some of these companies are outside of city limits, right? And then it's doubly complicated whenever the health board is run by the county. So it's tricky, and that's something that I need to reflect more on. I will say that something that I've been interested in early on, researching sort of the powers of the office and what other places have done. One thing that I'm interested in is congestion pricing, which isn't particularly about companies like U.S. Steel or who have you. But if we put a price on that pollution, even if it's small, if it's not the true cost of driving a car, if the city is able to do that, that's something that I'm certainly interested in. Could potentially bring in a lot of revenue for projects to monitor air quality, to do other projects around the city, potentially like doing retrofitting for families that live in old housing stock. Everybody has a leaky house in Pittsburgh. But if you sort of make it a revolving door of that, if we can find a way to pull funds from polluters such as drivers, and then put that towards something else, something that would help people, whether it's growing more food to reduce food miles or insulate houses, that's the way forward. We have to put a price on some of these negative externalities and putting
it's not even so much drivers. Sometimes there are still some companies in the city that are grandfathered in, that where their pollution levels would not fly for a company coming in. I believe, I forget specifically what neighborhood it was in. I believe there was still a steel mill running with pollution limits that were unacceptable. I'd have to provide a link though.
It's in Lawrenceville. I forget the name of the company. They've been there about 150 years.
Yeah, that's probably the one I was reading about.
Yeah, that one I'm not familiar with, but certainly something that I'm interested in. I spend a lot of time outside, and I'm concerned for my own personal health.
These things even hurt people inside too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you can't run away from it, right? I mean, you have to breathe, so it affects everybody. And one of the good things I think that came out of the coronavirus pandemic, if anything, is sort of a renewed interest in public health. And I think you can make maybe not a new argument, but you can engage in an argument around public health about something like air pollution differently, in a way that people might not have been able to listen to before the pandemic. Whether that'll change anything, we'll see. I hope so. I think that it can.
Yeah, for sure. All right, awesome. I think we need to get moving on, but thank you, Connor, for answering all our questions. Someone posted, I think it was Steven. Steven posted the link to sign up for the campaign's volunteer list, or even just email list, in the chat. So I'll copy paste it again, just so that everyone can see it again. So get involved. Good question, Jay. Are we doing that now? Yes. Okay, cool. So does anyone want to make a motion to endorse Connor for City Council District 4?
So moved, Mel.
I'm
All
out.
right.
Is this on the ballot? Like, is this on the ballot that Garrett's gonna send out?
No,
Garrett, can you answer that?
it's not.
No.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so Mel motioned. Does anyone second?
I'll second.
Okay, I heard James. Jim.
Yeah.
I always see it as James's iPhone. Okay, yeah, so Jim Rasmussen, second. Are there any concerns? Anyone want to say anything about it? I support it.
I think Connor is a very good candidate, and we should all enthusiastically support him.
Awesome. All right.
I second
Silence for enthusiasm. Going once. Going twice. All right. So sounds like by consensus, unanimously, we decide to support Connor. So congratulations, Connor, you've been endorsed.
Okay, now
Woohoo.
I can stop calling him the presumptive nominee in all my emails and start calling him the Green Party candidate.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, Kelly. This is Garrett.
Mhm.
I just wanted to throw in a sorry for Connor that I didn't give you probably better warning. So thank you for answering questions, and then thank you for the bigger thing of stepping up to run in the first place. That's a hard decision. And I worked with you on your candidate questionnaire, and we shared that on Slack and everything, and learning more about you and your background, studying ecology and things like that, and having a real interest in transit and pollution, all these important things in Pittsburgh, I think is awesome. So I definitely had no objections, and I'm glad you're running. Thank you. So that's it.
Yeah, I second everything that Garrett said. All right, you ready for the next slide? Cool, party elections. All right, so we have nominees for each of our officer positions. I forgot that we're doing 1 to 2 minute statements. Awesome. We'll start with me. I'm Kelly. I'm our current treasurer. I've been treasurer for 2 years. I started out as the treasurer of Jay's campaign back in 2018, and again in 2020, became his campaign manager in 2020. It was really exciting to see that campaign take off. And I want to get more involved in the inner workings of our party, and just seeing how Jay is connected with each of our members so well. I want to be able to continue to grow on that while being maybe a little more technologically organized and logistically organized. So as chair, I want to work on our organizing efforts and work on our fundraising efforts for sure. I'll be working closely with our new treasurer, assuming I don't have to stay treasurer. Yeah, that's all I have to say. So, Vice Chair, Jay, will you give us a statement?
Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick before we go through everyone else, I just wanted to point out that there's that link kind of in the bottom of the slide there, and we'll have to drop it in chat, but everyone submitted like statements ahead of time, so if you wanted to look at those, you can. And this is probably putting people on the spot here, so you don't have to necessarily give a statement if you don't want to, but you have the ability to. So thank you.
Okay, yeah, so I guess I'll open the floor to any of our nominees who want to give a statement.
I'll go next. So the vice chair is supposed to do onboarding. So I'm just gonna, my goal is to create an onboarding plan. Right now, it's just been sort of like, hey, like come to our meeting, we're going to this event. There's been no strategy, no like process. So I'd like to quickly come up with a process, especially this year that I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on our party. And I think it's going to be really important to have a process that's not just sort of like based on a few personal relationships. So that's my goal. Over.
Awesome. I see Emily and Mel on Stack. I would like for them to comment real quick before we ask anyone else.
I just have a quick, that was Mel put that, I just have a quick question. I want to know why we're doing this. There's no opposition.
Yeah,
Unless-
there's no opposition. We talked about this as an executive committee, and there's no opposition. We just want everyone to know a little bit about each person who's actually going to be our leadership for the next year. And if they have an objection, they're allowed to write in their own vote, write in a no confidence vote. It's just the most democratic way to do things.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Does anyone else from the nominees want to give a quick little statement? Everyone can see their bios on the website as well. All right.
I'll say quick. I just want to say quick that I accepted a nomination for the media because I kind of see that as being intertwined with education. I think that should be an important goal this year. So if you're interested in helping put together reading groups or just kind of general outreach to the public to try to get green views out more into the public, whether that's writing essays and publishing them or something like that, let me know. Then I'd love to work with you on that. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah. Looking forward to more education efforts. All right, so we can move on to, I think the next list will be delegates. So we actually had a last minute adjustment to our delegate list. I'm not going to be running for delegate unless someone gets 0 votes, but we actually added, I'm sorry if I mispronounce it, Theron and Jim. Are they both on the meeting tonight? Let me look at the list. Yes, okay, cool. So they will both be on our delegate list. We get 11 delegates and there will be exactly 11 of them who we can vote for. And then we get 4 alternate delegates and we have 4 candidates for our alternate delegates. These delegates are just people who report to the state committee as representatives of our county, and during state committee meetings, which we have roughly every 2 months, we decided on 5 a year. 3 of those at least are web conferences. For the past year, they've all been web conferences. And those are the people who vote on things. So just like registered Greens vote during Allegheny County meetings, the delegates from each county vote during the state meetings. So yeah, I will not be a delegate because I am on the steering committee of GPPA, so I get a vote anyway, and Jay is the same. All right. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right. Garrett, you want to move on to the next slide? Okay, so we have a ballot. If you could post that link in the chat, Garrett, that would be super helpful. And we're going to be counting the ballots as people vote. For the next 15 minutes, though, we're going to go ahead and discuss the Pittsburgh mayor race updates for 5 minutes, and then the Clareton hearing and air quality labor situation, which as Abigail or Abby, whichever you prefer, as you were mentioning
It's
that question,
Abigail.
Abigail, okay. So as Abigail was mentioning that question, I saw that Jay said in the chat we're actually going to be talking about that later. So I think that's what's coming up here. But for the next 5 minutes, let's just talk about the Pittsburgh mayor race updates. Who wants to lead that discussion?
Kelly, Would you mind, before we go into that,
Okay.
I just want to tell people when you go to that link, it should redirect you to a Google form, and you can put in your name, and then you can vote for people. And as Mel mentioned and Kelly mentioned, most of the positions are unopposed, so it's sort of an approval vote, I suppose. But it has a write-in slot for every option. So if there is any concerns or questions, you can write in whatever you want. And then keep in mind what Kelly mentioned, that a couple of people decided to run for delegate themselves. So maybe we could post their name in chat if you'd like to write them in. I don't know if they're actually on the form.
Oh, yeah.
But that's it. Thank you.
And Billy suggested we take a 2-minute break for people to vote and then go forward. That's a really good idea. So let's go ahead and do that. If anyone has the ability to.
How do we vote for the 2 added Green Party state delegates since they're not on the ballot?
That is a good question. So you can just write in both of their names in the little optional spot, or one or the other, or whatever.
Can you put the name in the chat so I spelled them correctly?
Yes.
Thank you. And I assume we don't vote for you unless we really want to annoy you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd prefer if people don't check my name so that we can count the votes properly and get our other 2 candidates voted in.
Well, sorry about that. I already did it and just checked every
That's
box.
totally okay.
I also checked every box.
That is also okay.
So this is Claire. Who are the names we write in? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Can you see the chat?
Oh, it's in the chat. I had already gone.
I put them in the chat.
Oh, Jim, Russ. No, oh boy. I hope okay.
You can just copy paste that little
good.
line.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I didn't think about that. All right. Okay. Thanks. Now, how do I get back to the? How did I get back to the? All right. Okay. I know how to get back there. Okay.
One thing, I don't know if this is reiterated, but you have to be a registered Green Party member, like with the state, to be able to vote on this ballot. Yeah, so if you're not a registered Green Party member, don't vote. And if you vote, we'll know. So that's the only warning.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll take a moment to kind of put in here what Jay mentioned, that this is a little bit of a test drive of the process, that especially last year and in previous years we would have paper ballots like we fought for Pennsylvania to have. So it's kind of ironic that we're using electronic online ballots, but we're trying to figure out a good process for this going forward. So any decisions in the future, we should know better how to do this to make sure it's accessible to everyone. So thanks everyone for humoring us on that.
Also, next year, we're going to have competitive races for every single position. So I hope you guys are ready for that.
Yay! I really kind of enjoy running and losing, knowing that people had a choice. I'm not sure I'd like running and winning. I'd have to do something. But the state level that happened, that was good.
So does anyone else think that it's a bit odd that nationally we only got 0.2%?
I don't think it's so odd, since A lot of our candidates weren't on the ballots in many states. I remember in the 2016 general election, I saw in many states way more Green candidates.
Yes, that's definitely true. Yeah, as you know, our presidential ticket, Howie and Angela, were knocked off the ballot in Pennsylvania. Sort of due to a technicality, but really it was that they wanted to be unfair. They wanted to say that COVID shut down all the offices except for we were still required to do everything by the books. And that unfortunately happened in several other states where Green candidates down the ballot were thrown off the ballot. They actually tried to do that in Pennsylvania, but thankfully we had enough volunteers and signatures that we were able to save our statewide candidates, but we couldn't save the presidential candidate.
It just seems like as a party, maybe that's something we should make an issue of going forward, is that, you know, if we're going to have free and fair elections, let's really have free and fair elections and not have it be essentially a choice between a duopoly. I just think that maybe we should call people out when they try to game the system in such a way that Greens get bumped for things like that.
Yeah, Jim, we have a blog for the county party on Medium, and we did post a couple of articles about what happened with the elections and all this year and getting kicked off the ballot and things like that. So that's a start at least, but definitely, you know, me trying to be the media coordinator for this coming year, that's something I want to think about a lot more deeply about how do we get that message out to more people. So, you know, appreciate any feedback from you or anyone else.
Awesome. On that note, would anyone like to start the discussion about the Pittsburgh mayor race?
I don't know. I guess I'll say something, which is just that I hope that we can get at least 2 to 3 candidates running for mayor, even if only one of them is actually serious about being the nominee. Because I really, really think that a mayoral primary would give us a lot of legitimacy. And it would just I think it would be exciting for us and sort of a morale boost for us that we've grown to the point where we can have a primary, we have enough people that there's more than one viable candidate for a position as big as mayor of Pittsburgh. And then that's also that's an excuse to advertise whoever wins that primary more. Is look, this person beat 2 other people in a Green primary. They must have a lot of support. You know, I don't know. It's just my spitballing thoughts about that.
So I guess when I conceived of this agenda item, the idea was to discuss, it was right after Ed Gainey entered the race. And I was just hoping that people could discuss maybe pros and cons of Ed Gainey versus Bill Peduto versus just to have a frank conversation about who they are and is that who we want to represent us in Pittsburgh, something like that. But I think it's fair to talk about our party's strategy with regards to the race as well. Okay.
Emily Mel on Stack.
Yeah, it's Mel. The race is going to be really interesting. I expect that Gainey will not run as an independent. He'll probably be defeated by Peduto. If no other reason than racism, he'll mount a good campaign. It's going to be interesting to see splits among progressives, because we're going to see a lot of progressives still backing Peduto, including some environmentalists who just think that he's wonderful because of Paris. And of course, we all know he's not, and neither is Ed Gainey. And then we're going to see some other progressives backing Gainey. And I think there's going to be a lot of kickback from progressives and from even a lot of the left if the candidate is run that appears to be taking any votes away from Ed Gainey, even though I think he's going to lose in the long run. It could get real nasty, but Ed Gainey, when he gives a speech, and I've been to many rallies with Ed, and I know Ed, when he gives a speech, you could make him think he could almost sound like a Black Panther reincarnated, for Christ's sake, and he's not. He's a machine politician, and he's going to play the game. He would be a little bit better than Peduto, but he's still going to play the game. So it's just going to be interesting to watch how this plays out in the city among various groups. And I hope it's not absolutely too divisive.
All right, thank you. Claire is on stack.
Okay. Oh, good, I'm off. Okay, so I just wanted to say a couple things. One, I know that one is what the Green Party strategy, and one about what is about the two candidates running against each other. So one is that I know that Jay has been talking about to me when I run as a not as a candidate to win, but I just wanted to let him know I've decided this is not the time for me to do something like that. But to get back to the two candidates, Peduto versus Gainey, Ed Gainey, I think it is going to be divisive because already, so I'm in one PA, and the SEIU is very influential in one PA, but SEIU is split down the middle. I don't know if it's down the middle. So there's so there's a group of SEIU that's involved in one PA, and they're already out there pushing for Ed Gainey. And then there's this group that this other group of SEIU people that are pushing for Peduto. But both of the candidates, Carl Redwine and I have been talking about this. Both of the candidates are problems, are really problems. They're not really interested in people's agenda. So Carl and I have been talking about, should we get together a group of people that make a statement about, and when would be the time to do that, about what would be a candidate that would really, not a name of a person, but why make a statement on why we're not supporting either of these candidates, and what we would see as a candidate was really a candidate, if you want to say a candidate of the people or a candidate addressing people's needs, because he and I were talking about how both of us are already being approached by people. Who are you for, Gainey or Peduto? And you got to kind of, because you're not for either of them, you got to kind of slither out of the conversation. And yet maybe it's a mistake for us to always slither out. We have to figure out how to make a statement that a group of us, and the reason why a group of us is because then people see it's not this one oddball or this one divisive person, but there are a significant group of us who don't see either of these as candidates who are really going to meet our needs, and this is why. So I don't know what people think about that idea, about about that idea, but that's what Carl and I have been talking about. And we haven't moved any further than talking about the idea that we should get together and make some kind of statement. And I think if that, the Greens might lead that, if that was done, but it should be bigger than the Greens. It shouldn't be just the Greens if that was done. If some kind of statement was put forward on, what would be the qualities or the platform, whatever, of a candidate that would really meet the people's needs.
Yeah, for sure. So we have Jay, Jim, and then myself on stack.
I was just going to say real quick, one of the things I was talking to people about Ed Gainey, even this summer before he announced, not this summer, last summer when I was running for office, gathering signatures, people were saying like, oh, I want to sign, but I live in Ed Gainey's district. And, they were like, really love Ed Gainey. And I'm like, did you know about his vote on the petrochemical tax credit? I work in the environmental nonprofit field. Many of you may have heard about the tax credit that Pennsylvania passed like a decade ago for the cracker plant, $1.6 billion in tax breaks for a $6 billion project. The second coming of that tax credit was voted on in 2019. It was either 2019 or 2020, and Ed Gainey, with a bunch of other local reps, voted for that tax credit, which was like a giant subsidy to the fracking industry, which was really sad because Ed Gainey had been pretty strong. He is strong on the environment. Like, he had a good environmental voting record. So I don't know why he would vote for like the worst bill, the most horrible environmental bill. But he did it. And, most people don't know about it because the environmental industry, like nonprofits, are not going to ding him for it because he's a Democrat, right? And he's a Democrat that's usually allied with them. So it's going to be really hard to get the truth out about that vote, because most people haven't heard about it, because who else would they hear about it from if it's not the environmental nonprofits? So that's something that I think people should keep in mind.
All right, Jim?
So I just had a quick question about the idea of, I think the idea of a statement on what a hypothetical green candidate would be is good. Are we talking about doing that? I'm trying to understand. Are we talking about doing that just as a general hypothetical, or as a comparison to Peduto and Gainey and what their positions are on issues?
That's a good question.
So, I mean, on the, just to speak to an earlier comment, I think Mel made, if we point out the some of the less than ideal positions of the existing candidates, then we're seen as throwing a wrench in the works and spoilers with respect to progressive agenda. And yet, if we just put up a hypothetical without a comparison to the existing candidates, we're not really making the point either that there is some issues that we as Greens have with their positions. So it's something that we probably, if we do this, we probably need to do some serious discussion on how we want to go with this, because I mean, it's easy if you're from a Democratic perspective, it's easy to say, well, the Greens are throwing a wrench in our works as a way of kind of delegitimizing the position. And I don't know how everybody feels about that, but we probably need to think about how we want to present this. I don't know. That's just my comment. Is I was concerned that we want to present a hypothetical, but not get caught up in the in some of the nastier business.
Yeah. That is important to think out. The thing I was going to say was basically exactly what Matt said in the chat. We can put out statements all we want, and like, statements are great, and I'm not saying there's anything bad about putting out a statement, but putting out an actual candidate that like this statement would say, oh, we would support someone like this. Like, what says that better than actually putting out a candidate like that? So I think that needs to be our main goal. How we go about doing it and what the timing is, I don't know. That's all I have to say on it. Riley's on Stack. Billy asked if people are done voting, so make sure to message her or type in the chat or something if you're still voting, or if you are having difficulties or anything. Riley, then Beth, we're on Stack. We've talked much longer than 5 minutes about this. How do people feel about going to the results and then coming back to the Clairton hearing and stuff? Okay, I see some thumbs up, so we're gonna go with that. if you have anything like groundbreaking to say, Riley or Beth, you can have one sentence.
Okay. I just wanted to say that the Democrats are always going to try to scapegoat us and say that we're throwing a wrench in progressive policies, and that we shouldn't let that stop us from like going full scorched earth here. Because if, like, who else but us is going to point out that like this isn't a real choice, that these people are not our allies in the end. I had more to say, but I won't say it in the interest of time.
My view is that we can always say, these are the things we would like to ask of our candidates without, which of course there's some implicit criticism probably of what they've already done. You know, would you be willing to take these positions? And asking them to do what we want them to do is less confrontational than saying your positions are already wrong. And it certainly opens it up to discussion and information, which is, I think, what we want.
Okay. Different point from Riley's. I like Jay's suggestion of talking about where we have these conversations between meetings. So anyone with ideas about that, definitely on the Slack is a good place to have these discussions. People are generally there. If you have any other ideas, shoot them into the text, into the chat box.
There's our Facebook group too.
Yeah, we have a Facebook group. I wouldn't recommend having it just like on your public Facebook wall. Let's do it in our group where we can like have some constructive conversation. Yeah, so Billy, let's hear the results, please.
Okay, so can you all hear me? I've got 27 responses. 27 responses. And so 27 votes for Kelly Kazemchuk for chair, 27 votes for Jay Ting Walker for vice chair, 27 votes for Alexis Thomas for secretary, 27 votes for Chuck Ritz for treasurer, 27 votes for Garrett Wasserman as media coordinator, 27 votes for Mike Stout for group coordinator, and 27 votes for Dominic Bordellin for neighborhoods coordinator. All right, congratulations, everybody. And then in terms of the delegates to the Green Party Pennsylvania, Riley and Connor, Marcy, Claire, Jerry, and Richard all had 26 votes. Dylan Liu, Beth Stronger, Garrett all had 27. And then Kelly had 15, so she does have more than both Jim and Theron. Is it Theron or oh man. But they got what, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 votes each. And then we've got our 4 candidates as alternate delegates. Paul got 25, David got 26, Steven Martinez and Elaine McGill, is it McGill? Got 27 votes each. So those are all our new folks. Oh, since Kelly withdrew, yeah. All right. Are we good? Oh yeah, my child is running around in the background. Sorry about that. All right. Congrats.
Awesome.
Everybody.
Thank you, Billy. And thank you for volunteering to like do all of the behind the scenes, like counting the votes. And thank you to Garrett for making the ballot. Having a little committee to do that was super helpful. All right. Did we have anything else we need to get through for the agenda before we have this Clairton hearing discussion? Because it is 11 after. Bylaws amendments proposals. We've got conflict resolution. There's a slight change in that bylaw. Our exec committee frequency change. What's the change there? Garrett, do you care to explain?
Yeah, people can look at it on the website there, but the short summary of all these is the first one there we've discussed for a really long time and it's just never been passed. So people have been coming to meetings for a long time, probably remember it. The short story is that right now, if any conflict between two members, the executive committee kind of handles it, but then that means that you don't get this fairness when your conflict might be with an executive committee member. So this resolution basically allows the General Assembly to set up like what would you call it, a mediator, and if that mediator doesn't work, then the state party can kind of come in as a judge and make a decision, so that it doesn't get blocked by executive committee members or anything like that. So that was the basis of that idea. The frequency thing is just that there's some requirements that the executive committee like meet a whole bunch of times. And so that's just to make it easier on us that we could schedule executive committee meetings whenever makes sense, as opposed to like all the time. And then a couple of meetings ago, we had a question on how abstentions work. So there's a short change to just kind of clarify how abstentions work, just to make sure there's no confusion in the future. And then I found a typo when looking at the bylaws. That's not a big deal, but just throw it in there for officialness. But that's a summary.
All right. Will anyone make a motion to approve of these amendments?
I move to approve the amendments.
All right, I hear Jim. Jim moves to approve. Anyone second?
Second, Marin Formley.
All right, thank you, Marin. All right, are there any concerns? Going once?
Kelly,
Yes.
I see Theron had put in there, are there conflicts that need formal resolution? And the answer is not usually and not hopefully, but it's always making sure that we are prepared for such a thing. Because you know, if it happens in the future, we don't want it to completely surprise us. It's done that in the past and it isn't pretty, so it's better to be a little more prepared.
All right, yeah. I will accept that answer. It looks like Theron accepts it too. All right, we have a motion and a second. I don't hear any concerns aside from that question, and it is not blocking. So I did say going once, going twice. And we approve by consensus. All right, woohoo! Anything else? Oh, budget stuff and platform stuff. So our policy committee updated our platform. Do you want to post that link in the chat, Garrett?
Yeah, sure. We can post it there. But just to kind of, we met as a policy committee, and I forget how many people, but we had I don't know, a good 6 or 7 people or something, I think, have contributed to it. So it's an expansion of the one that we passed a few years ago, that just includes a little more detail, because when we passed it a few years ago, it was meant to be very short. So this one has a little bit more policy added to it, to put it in line with like the state and the national party. So I don't think there's anything that would surprise people, but you know, definitely raise your questions or objections.
All right, I say we give folks a minute to look at that if they want to, and we look at the rest of the other updates we're gonna vote on, and then we just kind of do it all at once. So
Was
we
that
updated our,
Was that being posted in chat?
I believe So Garrett, can you post the link to those updates? Oh, okay, everything is there. So the link is the 2021 member goals link, and you'll see under candidate endorsement process, you just click that, and that's our proposal. The full GPOAC platform is the one we just discussed. Are the changes highlighted there, Garrett? It doesn't look like it. That's unfortunate, but that's okay.
Yeah, that document didn't preserve the changes, so sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. So we've got our candidate endorsement, and then the budget is also on that link. So our updated endorsement process, we basically just added a candidate agreement with a questionnaire and a platform endorsement. So this ensures that our candidates we have something in writing that says that they agree with our platform and our values, and that they will uphold all of these things. So go ahead and look over that. And then next is the budget guideline, which is very rough, but it's something. We have a $15,000 goal for 2021. We're looking to reach 200 members by December, and hopefully that'll bring in $8,000 over the year with a linear increase from our 40 members now, 50 maybe. And then we're hoping for $7,000. We're aiming for $7,000 in one-time donations, averaging $20 each. So that would be 350 donations. How to use that $15,000? We will put 5,000 of it toward campaigns. So city or borough council or mayor campaigns, we can start a candidate off with a certain seed funding, just to get some literature printed or something to start off, and then they will do their own fundraising. It's expected they'll do their own fundraising after that. And then $5,000 for printing, actions, events, food, all of our normal expenses that we typically have. And our last 5,000 would be for saving for hiring a part-time organizer in the future, or for anything unforeseen. So does anyone have any questions, comments? Anyone want to help with the development of that? Jay is on Stack.
I'll say that all of this stuff was done before the January meeting. All of this stuff was written before the January meeting. So we introduced it in the January General Assembly. And the process that we have is we introduce all of these goals in the January General Assembly. People can look it over all through January, and then we vote on it in the February, the convention. And another important thing about this convention is it's the only place we can make bylaws changes in one meeting. Normally it takes 2 meetings to make bylaws changes. So that's why that's why we're doing our bylaws amendments here, because it's in our bylaws, there's a convention thing that we can do once a year. So this is the once a year convention. Here it is. Yay.
Yay. All right, cool. Do we have anything else, Garrett, that we need to vote on? Okay, I don't think so. All right. Does anyone have any objections to the goals as presented for the platform, the endorsement process, or the budget? Any comments or questions on them? Okay. All right, well then, am I allowed to make motions? Will someone make a motion to approve all of the things that we just looked over, the 3 documents?
Motion to approve.
All right, Alexis makes a motion?
Second.
Mel seconds. All right, cool. Going once. Going twice. Approved by consensus. Woohoo! All right. All the like boring stuff is out of the way. Thank you for hanging in there for all of that for our convention. Are there any member motions or proposals? Anything that someone wants to bring to us and say, hey, let's vote on this thing. Let's sign on to a letter. I don't know. There's always something. Nothing today, but chat was on fire today, so that was nice. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, Mel moves to adjourn. Someone second, please.
Second.
All right, I heard Jim first.
Hi, Kelly. Helen is saying she wants to look up something quick for a proposal.
And then she said too late.
Yeah.
If you want to dig up any of those letters, you can send them to us in Slack or in email or whatever. And the executive committee can vote on anything that is time sensitive, and we can bring it to the March meeting if it's not as time sensitive.
Sounds good.
All right, awesome. Thank you. All right, going once to adjourn, twice, and we have adjourned. Okay, so now we can have open forum. We can go back to discussing the Clairton and air quality stuff if you would like, or
Before we do that, can we take a picture?
yes.